Hello everyone, welcome to Bruno's Geek Reviews. Today we're going to review a role-playing game called StarSIEGE Event Horizon. Oh, other way around. So, I really think that this is an awesome sci-fi RPG toolkit. And you know what? People didn't pick it up. It's out of print, and it's a shame. And this game deserved much better. It's made by Josh Tuning. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right. The same way, apparently, the other day when I mentioned on Intentions of the Playing Princess's author, and I called him James Raggi. Apparently, it's Raji. So anyway, I guess people who make RPGs can have odd names. So now the thing I'm going to do in this review, I'm going to talk about the game itself, but I'm also going to talk about how it was presented. So maybe I'm not going to go in depth, but I'm going to mention the marketing aspect of it, the packaging, the formatting, the whole context of this game in itself, and not only the rules as I would usually do. Well, I guess I mentioned it before. Anyway, let's get started. So this is a box set, which I personally don't like. Because you put it in your backpack, it can get messed up. It's hard to keep intact, So I prefer a sturdy volume, or if it's gonna be a box set, have it be a solid one. One that's not gonna mess up easily. Because this is flimsy. Anyway, that's a nitpick. What do we have inside? First of all, we have the little book of Victory 2442, which is kind of like a default setting that comes with StarSIEGE. It's okay, it's cool. I mean, I really don't have anything specific to say, and I think most people will not buy it for this. It's 24 pages of goodies, crunch, and fluff, like setting and technology information and alien races. It can be useful if you want to kind of like see how to apply the system to a setting. So it has its place. And I'm not saying it's not good, but I'm saying it's not really why you buy the game. Not me personally, anyway. We have the operations manual, which is for the game master, the siege engineer, as they call it, in this game. Now, this one is awesome. This one gives you a whole system to create your own stuff for your games, and it's amazing. I'm serious. And the thing is, it's hard to wrap your head around it at first. Because it's the same system. If you want to create psychic powers or magic or gadgets or a ship, it's the same system. You have points, build points, I believe they were called. I may be drawing a blank here. Anyway, you have points to put into different things. Like how much does the object cost? Does it cost you XP? If it's a power, does it cost you XP to learn it? Does it have specialties? Can it be dangerous? Anyway, you have plenty of things where you divide your points in there. So for example, something can be this perfect power that you can just use and that's it, but you put all the points in XP and it costs a lot of XP to learn it. Or it can be a gadget, and if the smaller you make it, the more build points it takes. So to have it anyway, and the value and the size actually doesn't work. The build points, the way it works is it can start out very big, and the more points you put in there, the smaller it will be. But the point is, you can build anything with the same system. Usually in games, it's more you have this system for powers, you have this system for gadgets, and etc., etc. So it actually feels weird at first, but then it feels right. Yeah. Anyway, so this is why you buy the game. This is why you buy it. It's for the system. It's awesome. It's really good. Like, if I wanted to do let's say a Star Wars game, I can do force powers with that. And the good thing is actually on the Troller Games forums, because the company who makes this it's Troller Games, as you can see here. The author of this game actually is very present. Well, last time I checked anyway. And participates when fans comment on the game or try to stat things, and he even helped me out a little bit because at some point I wanted to do a Star Wars campaign using this system, and it didn't work out because like the people I was going to play with anyway. Long story, but I was on those boards, those forums, and he helped me out directly. Like the author of the game is reachable via the internet and will help you out if you need new stuff for the game. And that is really awesome. He's posting stuff and for cybernetics, and so I know that's not part of the game itself, but hey, it's fun. And you know, the way he applied some things, you get to see a little bit. Like once you understand the system, you can come up with your own stuff and have an idea of how many points it would take, or you know, new SFX they're called, like special effects is what each thing that you want to buy for whatever it is you're creating would be called. So for example, I mentioned the lightsaber deflects things, so it would have, like a lightsaber would have a deflection, and then he created a new item flaw. So for example, it can only be used by those who have a specialty, stuff like that. Anyway, I don't want to bore you with the details, especially if you haven't checked the game yet, but what I mean to say is you can really go into details and create your own stuff, and it's a lot of work, sure, but it's worth it. If you want to do your own setting and build it from scratch yourself and have that satisfaction, and it's a lot less maddening than if you would use GURPS. I mean, I love GURPS, generic universal role-playing system, but you know, have you, like, their books can be, their rules can be very, very maddening, and this is much lighter and yet very complete. Now, what else do we have? We have the field manual, which is for the players. It's the main rules of the game. And this uses the, what Troller Games calls the SIEGE engine, and it's basically you roll a d20. If you're good at this, your default, you have to get 12 on a d20, and if you're not good at it, you have to get an 18. And then there's other modifiers depending on your stats, or in the case of this game, you can have specialties, which is very good. Because the way it works, the system is similar to their Castles and Crusades game, but instead of going just with attributes, you do have skills in this game. You have skill bundles. So if you take, you know, athletic or stuff like that, anyway, and then beyond that, let's say there's something you want to do which is not in your skill bundles, but you still want your character to be pretty good at it. You can then put specialties, like you can put points in that specific specialty. So even though you're starting from 18, you can put bonuses in one particular skill, and then you can be better in that. Even though in general, in that whole skill bundle area, you wouldn't be as good. You know, like there's athletics, awareness, combat, environmental, anyway. So let's say that your character usually sucks at combat, but you still want him to be like good with a gun, you know, stuff like that. You know, like in combat, he wouldn't be able to punch someone. He's physically weak, but you want him to be a very good shooter. Then you don't take combat as a skill bundle. You can quick look at the character sheet. But then you can put specialties. And you know, it's very complete. It comes with, it's very, in some cases it's similar a little bit to Castles and Crusades. It has a combat defense, which is pretty much your armor class, and you have a psi defense against psychic attacks. You have a wound track, a stress track. That's more kind of, there's no hit points per se. Well, kind of, but it's more like you keep track of, you check when you are wounded, or anyways, stuff like that. There's a technology score, psychic score, cyber score, you know, depending on what kind of campaign you're playing. Some might apply, others won't. There's Nova points that allow you to do cinematic stuff. It's kind of like, depending on the kind of campaign, you might have none at all, or you might have a few, or even more. And the amount of Nova points allow you to do heroic stuff that you would see in movies, or yeah, or to tweak the story in your favor with the collaboration of the game master, the siege engineer. Anyway. Now, what else do we have? So we just checked the field manual. Now we have a field manual. Okay, just a second. What else? Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, we have a field manual. And what more? Oh, another field manual. Okay, here's when I'm starting to get pissed off now. And I mentioned I was going to explain stuff beyond the game. Now, the game itself, it's amazing. It's a very good toolkit. Now I'm going to address why it didn't work and what was done wrong for this game. You know, those 4 field manuals, the author of this game mentioned online that he wanted to put more setting information for his default setting. Let's say you wanted to play the game right out of the box instead of creating your own stuff. He wanted to put more, but Troller Games told him that they wanted to print 4 field manuals, so they needed pages for that. That's right, we could have had more material for $1, but they wanted us to have 4 field manuals. And yeah, sure, I mean, during character creation, when I used it myself, it was useful at that moment, because you could pass it around, players can read it on their side. I mean, for the first 3 game sessions, of course it will be useful, but in the long term, do we really need 4? Or I would have preferred to have more material instead of copies of what they are already giving me in the box. So that's one thing. One thing that turned a lot of people off is that they had to work too much to use this game. And I keep calling it a toolkit because that's what it is. Like the setting, like the default setting, comes with very, very bare bones information. And I mean, I'm not bashing it. It's a good place to start from. But what I mean is that you can play it out of the box, but not for long. You know, you're gonna want to build your own stuff, like gadgets and stuff like that. And it comes with the default things you'd need in a campaign. Like if you want to have a kind of like a Han Solo type of ship, or more like an Enterprise type of ship, or Star Destroyers, or you know, it gives you a lot of rules for that. And it's even amazing because the ship combat and the planetary combat that this game has is maybe, I mean, I haven't played all sci-fi games, maybe others have done it or whatever, but it's really good. Like, what they do is they simplified it so much. If 2 planets go to war, or if 2 ships are in combat, they each have their own character sheet, and they're here. Like in the box you have the player sheets, and you have the sheets for a planet or a ship. And you know, they call them templates, planet template, and anyway. Basically, for example, let's say 2 ships are fighting, it's as if 2 characters were fighting, and the modifiers come from the players, the characters inside the ship. So let's say you have a good captain giving orders and all that stuff, and he's good at it. Then it gives bonuses to the ship from its default stats. Let's say you have a good pilot, or not a good pilot, and stuff like that. So anyway, so it simplifies a lot. Like if 2 planets go to war, you don't need a like huge complicated system to keep track of. Anyway, no, you just have them go to war, and then you can see which planet would win according to their tech level and things like that. It's very simple. It's really streamlined, and it helps you a lot to move stories along. And anyway, I digress a little bit, but it needed to be said. That's another strong point of this game. Now, the problem, there you go, is a lot of people, let's face it, not everyone has time or wants to spend 3 hours working on stats and everything. So I think the game would have benefited from having more stuff ready for players instead of 4 field manuals. Now, another thing that hurt this game. Troller Games insists on to keep using their SIEGE engine. They think it's amazing. You know, the 12 or 18 on a D12, and they think it's the, I don't know, it's their signature dish if they were a restaurant. It's their gimmick. You know, listen, the SIEGE engine, it's just simply, if you're not good at something, you have to get 18 on a D12, and if you're good at it, you get +6. It's basically what it is. I'm not bashing it. I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm not saying it's good either, and I don't think they should be imposing it on every single game they do. Now, what happened is, the way they marketed it was kind of like, they kind of marketed it like Castles and Crusades in Space, which it wasn't. This is not a class level game. This is based on skills. But don't get me wrong, actually the interesting thing is it comes with so many variant rules and options that it's such a good toolkit and it's so strong and solid. You can actually create classes for it. I'm not kidding. If you don't like the wound tracks and stress around, you even have options to use hit points in the traditional sense instead, and how many points to get more hit points. And so you could totally, from this, create classes. It's doable and it's easy to do. But again, I digress. People, the way it was announced, because they kept saying Siege Engine, and if you know how to play Castles and Crusades, you can play this. That's what they were saying. It's not exactly the case. This is a very different game. And just that, having that +6, which is what it is in there, doesn't make it like Castles and Crusades. And they're both good games, but they're both different. So people were expecting a thing, they got something else, and very often, a game that could have been appreciated on its own, if it wasn't what people expected, the reaction of people is usually to not like it. So that's one thing that happened. And in fact, they seem to have learned that lesson in a way. I think the lesson they should have learned is, let's make different games for different stuff. But instead they learned the other lesson, which actually, you know what, business-wise it might be wisest, is just let's do, when we do other games for other settings, let's do Castles and Crusades in X. Now they came out with Amazing Adventures, and again, don't get me wrong, because I want to get this game eventually, but it's basically Castles and Crusades for pulp stories. Let's say you want to play The Shadow, Indiana Jones, Duck Savage, well, that's Amazing Adventures. And it looks good, but they basically, this time around, they basically took the Castles and Crusades system, you know, classes, levels, all that stuff. And they even made it a point to let people know, like, this is like Castles and Crusades this time around. Now, they, another thing I have to mention, this is a great game that looks horrid. I mean, this box set, I remember seeing it before, years ago, and it didn't really catch my eye. It looked really tame, and look at the back, it's in black and white. Now let's do a quick comparison. Let's say this is kind of like, you know, I think they wanted to go for an old school feel, but the fact of the matter is, look at this. Lamentations of a Flame Princess, the box set. Whoa, again, what is it with me holding boxes the other way around today? Anyway, and look at how beautiful it is. This is an old school game. It doesn't try to look like it, but it is. It's kind of all D&D rules-wise, you know? And the playstyle it encourages. Anyway, look at that. Look, compare it. Come on. Then look at the back, black and white, boring, young. Then look how good it looks. Anyway, so yeah, packaging, the box set, which is not a good idea in general, unless you make it very sturdy. Again, like this, I could put in my backpack. This is like doubled over, and you know, this is gonna resist. This is sturdy. I don't have to worry. I can throw it. That's it. This, geez, I have to handle it with care. The only thing it's useful for is I actually get to keep my. I printed some of the stuff that Josh Tuning posted on the boards for you know, more technology stuff and his advice for Star Wars games, and I printed it, put it there. I still have in there the character sheets of the game that never happened. Well, that lasted one session. Sadly. And I'm thinking of using StarSIEGE for maybe at some point a Dalek invasion game, you know, a Doctor Who universe game where characters that have to deal with Daleks invading. You know, anyway. I agree. But what I mean to say is, like, this system can do a lot of styles differently because you have so many options for variant rules. And it's so complete that you can do Star Wars, you can do Star Trek, you can do Doctor Who, you can do very different types of games just using the different options that gives you here. It's so, you know, you get a lot for your dollar here, but it doesn't look like it. That's my problem with the game. It is so good, but it looks bad. They make it look bad. I mean, look at these. Look at how boring this looks. You know, people, get over that. I want to make it look like, and look at the formatting. It's just, there's not enough pictures in there. I mean, well, okay, there is one here, but look, it's 4 pages, text, 6 pages, 8 pages. it's a role-playing game. You need stuff like put pictures, put stuff to inspire people, to make them want to play it. You know, that's how it works. You have to make it look good. And then I also got, I think I have everything that was ever published for StarSIEGE, Event Horizon. I have this adventure for it, which is called Another Fine Mess. And it's a really cool little adventure, which, look at this picture, and the way they describe it is actually, they don't say it, but they really make it obvious. It's if you want to play Firefly. You know, Firefly Serenity, the Josh Whedon show. And this adventure is basically, it's set in the default setting that comes in the box set, but for this particular adventure, they make it, it's Firefly, it's a Firefly adventure, it's really cool. And again, it shows you that this game can do a lot of things. And just from the ship combat rules and everything, you could do Han Solo as well as you could do James T. Kirk, like very different ship combats, you know, like more of a pilot-centric combat, you have that, and, or if you want to be a captain giving orders. Anyway, I'm starting to repeat myself a little bit, I guess, but I can't stress that enough. You can really do very different sci-fis with this. So this little adventure, I mostly bought it because I wanted to kind of like see what an adventure for this game would look like, how they would apply the rules and everything, which is always good. And also because I'm a huge Firefly fan, so it was kind of like tempting to pick it up and look at it. I couldn't resist. And finally, I also bought online the Trollworld Games has a magazine they call The Crusader. And this is the issue that when StarSIEGE came out, or was going to come out, anyway, in July 2008, they, an issue like had stuff for that. And the author of StarSIEGE, just to show you how much you could do with the StarSIEGE system, you know, gave some rules to actually convert Castles and Crusades classes into StarSIEGE rules. Like if you wanted special abilities that classes have, like the wizard spellcasting, or how, you know, if you depend on the book, or just fighter abilities, things like that. Just to show like you don't even have to do sci-fi, you can do really any type of setting with this game. Now, that's the thing though. It's perfect if you want to build your own stuff. If you're not afraid to get your hands dirty in world creation, and if you're not afraid of some crunch, but it's not excessive. Like, it's not like, I mentioned GURPS before, and GURPS vehicles, I looked at it once, and I don't even want to try to create a vehicle under those rules. It's really insane. Whereas this is really manageable. You just have to take the time to do it, and to familiarize yourself with the concept. I mean, I was creating, it's interesting, I was creating for that Star Wars game that never happened, with the same rules. I was creating 4 spowers and one character's laboratory with the same rules, with the same SFX, as they call it, with the same build points. It's a really solid system, and now apparently they're planning a relaunch. I don't know if they're actually going to do it. It's been mentioned a few times. Trollworld Games is supposed to try StarSIEGE again, give it another chance. First of all, I hope they make it a book this time around instead of a box set. Because I don't like box sets, unless they're like Lamentations of the Flame Princess, like really solid ones they can carry around. But when they're flimsy like that, give me a book. Give me a good book with nice pictures, a book that's nice to look at, you know. Because it sounds childish. Like I want pictures in my book, but I'm not reading a novel here. If I read a novel, then sure, it's page after page of just letters. That's fine because I'm getting immersed into the story. But if I'm reading rules, it's nice to kind of have inspirational material or something to look at because it is a lot like studying in a way when you check out new rules for a game. So it does help, I think, to make it look nice, to make you want to play the game. I mean, like I mentioned in the Pathfinder core rulebook before, it was so nice to look at. That's a beautiful book, so that helps a lot. And I'm not saying it has to be in color or it has to have high production values in the sense of paper quality, but you know, make an effort to make it look nice and interesting. And to anyone who wants to a role-playing game, I think that's very important what your game looks like, because even if you have a really solid system and really good ideas, like it was the case with this, if you don't make it presentable, it's not going to catch on. And that's something very serious. Because then it's a shame. And this is what it is, because it's a really good game that was not picked up by people because of misinterpretation, because it didn't look nice enough, because they wanted something else. Like those it was announced to wanted something else, and those who would have picked it up thought it was something they didn't want. So that's that. Now I really hope when they relaunch it. I'm kind of torn, because on one side I know it would sell more as Castles and Crusades in Space, but I hope they keep it a skill-based system. But if they do a relaunch, they might do it with classes instead. And you know what? It might even sell more. Maybe it's for the best for this game. But then I don't think you could apply to a classes system the build points system for creating anything. Or you couldn't as well, maybe each class would have this many build points to get something for a class every level. I don't know. I have trouble seeing the system remaining as good as it is, as a toolkit at least, and grabbing classes, because I think there's already a lot of games like that out there. So anyway, that's my opinion. StarSIEGE Event Horizon is a really good game that didn't get enough exposure. I think maybe Troller Games, I don't want to be too harsh on the company here. I know I'm coming across as judging them a lot, but it's not the case. I'm just stating facts. But I think it might have paid off if they supported it a bit more. If they took a little bit, even if it wasn't selling that well. The thing with role-playing games is the psychology of this market is very often people wait and they're like, well, this game looks nice, but I'm gonna wait and see if it lasts. That's how people think. They go, let's see if they come out with a few supplements and then I'll get interested. And that even happens to me sometimes. For example, Pathfinder, I stuck with D&D 3.5 for a long time, and only because I saw that Pathfinder was doing very good supplements, that's when I started to get interested in Pathfinder itself. Now in this case, sure, it's almost the same game, so it's more understandable, I guess, but a lot of people are like that. So because, what came with StarSIEGE? One adventure and one article on Crusader. And I know that's hard to justify making more material for a game if it's struggling, but at the same time, sometimes it's an investment. Stick with your game. If you put it out there, it's your child. Try to support it, and then people will see it supported. That's when they go buy it. It's not the other way around, companies. It's not you put it out there and then, hey, if enough people buy it, then we'll give you... No, it's a role-playing game. You have to stick with it. You have to support it. You have to show it love. The author was preparing lots of interesting stuff from what he was saying in the forums. He was preparing, he had ideas for a cyberpunk supplement, had ideas for kind of like a space opera supplement. Come on, that would have been awesome. Okay, enough ranting. So you know what? I think they still sell it on the Troller Games store. I think they still have copies. That's how I bought it. When I bought it, it was already out of print, but they still had copies. So pick it up. Or at the very least, keep an eye out for the relaunch. But I can't support the relaunch yet because I have no idea what form it'll take. Thanks for watching.